me do this. Okay, we've come back. Sorry, everybody. Weird glitch. I think we're okay now. I
told you we shouldn't try to run this episode on a Game Gear.
Yeah, see, this is the problem. Those double A's aren't going to help us at all either. Anyway, okay, so we're back at it. I don't know where we were, but we're going to play this music from Axe. Oh, we were talking about this. The only thing I want to say about it is actually very impressive that an 8-bit machine with a very inferior sound chip.
Yes.
Even the Genesis one was nothing to write home about. But the fact that little crappy chip in that Game Gear could poop that out and have it sound sort of like the iconic sound, I'll give it some credit for that. It's fine.
And I have all kinds of looked at that stupid sound card because I've got to replace about 4 caps on that thing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty small, and it's done the job. It got it done.
Yeah, gets her done, as what's his name says, Larry the Cable Guy, who's not really him. Anyway, hey, here's some music. Kind of got a cool sound to it. This right here is the music to a little game called Axe Battler, a Legend of Golden Axe game, or a Legend of Golden Axe. There's no game at the end. 1991, this game came out, and I did not play it in the day, but I played it yesterday, and you know what? It's all right.
It's not bad as far as parts of the game. I wasn't crazy about the actual battles at first. Because there's 3 modes in this game, the Axe Battler. You can there's like this exploratory part, but then you have like these random encounters.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you can actually encounter stuff on purpose. But the encounters are probably the weakest part of this whole game because they're
it's not my favorite either.
Yeah, if you get hit like even one time, which your reach is longer than everybody else because you're the Axe Battler, right?
Yeah.
Then you get knocked out. But if you enjoyed Golden Axe Warrior, anything like that, then this is good. The Golden Axe is good.
It's all right. It's turn based, kind of random encounters, like you said. There's also a kind of a 2D platformy walking bit that reminds me a lot of Zelda 2.
Yeah,
They're going for a couple of things here, I think, and I think it succeeds mostly at the combination of things it's trying to do. It's not the worst game you're going to ever spend your time with. I was impressed with it because I just didn't expect anything from it, and I actually kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So it made me wonder why Sony or Sega didn't do more with Golden Axe as an offshoot for other game types.
Right.
Because we've talked about that before. What was the other one we liked so much in the Zelda?
Golden Axe Warriors,
yeah,
which was,
that was
the
awesome.
other one we talked about. That was pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
And this game, we're going to talk about this a lot while we're talking about the Sega Game Gears. We know this is a really small screen. We mentioned at the top of the show, 160 by 144.
Yeah.
And the screen, I think, is like 5 inches or something. So if you imagine most of your cell phones today and like you like half the screen, if you turn it sideways and half the screen, you're getting pretty close to the screen size. So if the sprites were large and legible, like they'd have to be at least like almost an eighth of the screen in size. And that's one of the great things about Golden Axe are all those great big fat characters they usually have.
Yeah.
And so I thought it looked pretty good.
Well, the original Game Boy resolution was, let's see, I'm just doing a comparison here. The Game Boy, it's much smaller, right?
Yeah, it's like 80 by...
Oh, here it is. Oh, no, it wasn't bad. 160 by 144.
Oh, so it's the same.
Yeah,
so
they're
it's
the
the same
same
as the just it wasn't in color, and so it's
a little slower too. I noticed there was a lot of tearing and kind of jerkiness to Game Boy games that tried to do a lot of scrolling and stuff, and it felt like the Game Boy or the Game Gear had a better handle on that. Same as the Genesis.
It's
or
different.
Even the Master System.
I haven't dug deep into the Game Boy screen, but it's definitely different technology because the Game Boy, of course, not being backlit or front lit unless you actually front lit it yourself from an external device.
Yeah.
Whereas the Game Gear, of course, was backlit. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah. It's a cool game, though.
Was it?
Worth checking out. There's also this one that I actually think is close to my favorite. Anyway, here it is.
Oh!
Yeah, very close. Not quite my favorite, but we'll get into why I think that it's pretty good. This game is called Crystal Warriors. Brian's got is that a comic? What is that?
I got confused. So there's a comic that I love. It's called Crystar, Crystal Warrior. And when I saw this, when I saw this game was on our list of exclusive titles for the Sega, I was like, oh, they made a Crystal Warrior game because it is also about elements, right? It's elements and it's fantasy and everything I was reading. I was like, oh my God, this has got to be the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same, is it? It's different.
It's not the same.
Well, this one, if you are a fan of the Nintendo titles or the Fire Emblem titles from Nintendo, then this will be immediately accessible to you because it's a turn-based tactical strategy RPG. Yeah. And it's a good one, in my opinion. I think this is pretty strong stuff. It reminds me of playing Fire Emblem or even Advance Wars. It's sort of that similar thing. You take turns. It's all turn-based, which I'm a big fan of anyway. I think the actual combat screens are a little boring and dumb. Just because they take a while.
There's no backgrounds in them we've seen, but you get all your stats there. The animations are hilarious whenever they come up and they attack each other. You can have you start out with 6 adventurers. You can get up to 9. Yep. There is a permadeath in this game. There's a lot of things going on in this game that I thought that they did it really well. Like there's also like a little bit of fog of war where you don't know who the enemy is unless you use one of your spellcasters to scan them, and then you kind of know better because they know how to position tactically. Where do you want to put your healer at? You want to put him in the back. Where you want to put your the archer or different classes where you want to place them at.
Sure.
But man, this one blew me away with that and the fact that you would go from one, you would start with your castle and you go over to another castle and you'd enter that town, but you'd encounter enemies along the way. Then once you get into the other side, you can shop around, upgrade your equipment, reorganize. But once again, like I said, you got that permadeath, man.
Yep.
You might like one of your buddies and he's just dead and you'll never see him again.
Yeah, no, it's a cool game. I also like that you can tame animals along the way, but unlike a lot of games where you have animal taming, they don't actually have to fight if you don't want them to, but you can.
Right.
They can be part of your battles, which is
that
cool.
was way cool. I was curious about that because when I first started encountering things, the first thing you encounter when you play this game is animals. And I thought, I'm going to be fighting against enchanted animals who are pissed. All right, cool.
Yep,
and I'm like, no, okay. So it kept saying tame. And I'm like, oh, wait, am I going to tame these characters? So sure enough, if that character tames an animal, he can then choose to play or not play in battle. Pokemon, get out there and
take that.
Do it.
Pocket Monsters.
Pocket Monsters.
It's cool. Came out in 1991, and I think is the most accessible of these, maybe. But that, again, I have a bias toward this game type, so I'm kind of a sucker for it.
Yeah, I think, and I just played a lot. So there's also a Japanese-only follow-up to this. It's like, was it Stone Battler or something like that? I've actually played it before. Japanese-only release, but there is a fan translation for that. What's it called? Is it it's something like that? It's like Stone Stone briskets.
Stone
Destroy
briskets.
them with lasers.
Yeah, just stone briskets. That's it.
Stone hedges. Stone.
I don't know.
Stone. I'm gonna keep stalling for time.
How come we never got it? Because it was the Game Gear dead by then. They'd given up. Moved on.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. We shouldn't have been because this was 91 when this first one came out. I think it was 92 or so when the second came out. Where the crap is it?
Wonder why we didn't get it.
Royal Stone. It was the Royal Stone, which sounds like a great band, doesn't it?
Doesn't? Yeah. Welcome to the stage, Royal Stone, performing their rendition of "Hey, we're a Japanese thing that didn't make it to America."
I think you nailed it, though, because the Japanese-only sequel, Royal Stone, wasn't published until 95, and that was pretty much near the end, where Sega was just really working with a few developers and just going, hey, come on, please, we just got to get a few more out there. Come on, man, just work with us.
What was I doing in 95 for handhelds? Probably still sort of messing with my Game Gear, but I think I had probably moved on to one of the newer pocket editions of the Game Boy or something.
Right.
At that
Probably
stage,
so.
Yeah. But that's kind of when Sega was about to get weird.
It was all about to get weird.
Yeah, things were getting weird at Sega. But then came a game in 1992 that I don't remember at all. All right? I'm going to play a little music from that thing, too. Oh, boy, that one will go right to your soul. The Game Gear was good at this fake echo music.
Right.
Creating the sense of an echo. Anyway, that game is called Defenders of Oasis, and it is a very traditional Japanese-style RPG.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it says the story's based on 1001 Nights, but it didn't strike me as anything too close to that. It just felt.
No, it was set in that world. So you got your like Beyond Oasis type games, Defenders of Oasis in this case, with set in those different settings of 1001 Nights stories. Overhead perspective, little command base. You'll notice that a couple of early on, it seemed like the really good games seemed to be the JRPGs, because they were specifically trying to attack Nintendo, who was doing very well at these.
Yeah. This was a Final Fantasy attempt sort of thing. That's what this game was. Yeah.
And I thought this one was okay. I played this one. It is very solid. The graphics look amazing, probably better than Crystal. Even though I love Crystal Warriors, it was kind of disjointed. Some of the graphics were kind of, it's in typical fashion. Some of it was cutesy and some of it was more serious, but it didn't seem to match. Even the characters' outfits didn't even have the same colors. It was just weird. But this one, it really, to me, it's nailed the RPG.
Yeah, I agree.
Classic.
I think it looks way better than a handheld, an 8-bit handheld deserves to look. It surprised me. But a lot of that stuff, those trappings are there. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the characters and the dialogue and all that. Oh, that's where this game really shines. The dialogue is so quirky, but it just kind of works, and it makes you endeared to the character. You kind of endear themselves to you. I'm like, oh, okay, I like this guy now, even though he's kind of goofy.
I do. As a general rule, I don't love random encounters, and this game is chock full of those. Yeah. But it's no worse than any other JRPG. So
I think this is the one. Yeah, and the good thing about this one, this is the one that does was it Crystal, or was it this one that you only had? No. Okay, I'm thinking of Crystal Warriors. I did like Crystal Warriors. That was my favorite combat because you didn't have to defeat. You would just go like 2 rounds in a random encounter, and then you would go back to overworld. Here you're once again, traditional Japanese RPG. Yeah, battle till you get out or run.
Yeah,
don't run.
A little grindy if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. You already know what you're getting into, so recommended for those people. I think, and you're right.
So if you were thinking that you're I'm an RPG fan, Sega's not got nothing for me. Look at the Game Gear titles. You might find yourself a few gems.
Yeah, more than I think you probably know at this stage. Right. Now let's get into the action. The action people want to hear from us, right?
Because there's no more. That's it. That was all the RPG action I think we were even talking about today. I think everything else is
it's all pretty straightforward.
Everything else is action.
I was a big Shinobi fan, and you could play Shinobi 2, The Silent Fury on this device, and it sounded a bit like this. Oh, intriguing ninja bullshit happening with the song. Anyway, this is as nondescript as that music is. This is another edition of Shinobi, and in this case, I want to read what you pulled from the Wikipedia. I love this description.
Yeah, I couldn't do better than that. I tried to write our own thing, but I was like, that's pretty good.
No, this is so good. The evil techno warriors have enlisted the Black Ninja, master of ninja techniques, to help them take over Neo City. This evil syndicate has captured the 4 elemental crystals and their guardian ninja, Joe Musashi. Musashi has to rescue 4 fellow ninja and retrieve their corresponding elemental crystals before the final showdown against the evil black ninja in his castle.
How can I do better than that? I will give some serious props to the Wikipedia writer, author of the GG Shinobi 2.
That might be in the manual or something. I don't know. Maybe
it could be.
It could be. It's entirely possible. But if you like Shinobi, you'll probably like this. My only complaint about Shinobi 2, I think it's very fun. It's a workable, serviceable action side scroller. There's not nearly chucking enough shurikens in the game.
Yeah. There's none of that right away. This is not your typical Shinobi. Like my go-to game on my Master System was absolutely Shinobi. Anytime I could get some Shinobi in, I was getting the Shinobi in. But this was a little bit different because you were unlocking or rescuing ninjas so that you could progress in different areas, and you could choose to start wherever you wanted to, except for the final level.
Right.
And you could fight in different areas, like you fight in the woods or on the docks.
Remind me of the
it's
first
a
Mega
story.
Man where you could choose your starting level, basically.
Right.
You know, it was
We're playing at the
non-linear in
factory
that
right
way.
now.
Yeah. Look at him fighting these guys.
Love it.
Look at this. Chop, chop.
It's good, and it's just like Shinobi now. Don't get worried. It is still a Shinobi because it's easy to die. You only have like 3 health bars to start with. I think you can increase that, or maybe if the different ninjas have it. I'm not sure because I do it.
You know what sucked is the boxes that had bombs in it. Those pissed me off. Those bombs.
Oh yeah, I didn't understand the bombs. Why is there a bomb in a lot of these boxes? I'm like, is it so that I can hit it and then walk away, and then the enemy will walk over top of it? Nope, it's just there to piss me off, like you said.
Yeah, the pacing's not Shinobi 3 on the Genesis is really the high point of the Shinobi series, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if you really want to go nuts and play Shinobi, that's the game to play. But if you want to check this one out just from a historical sort of, hey, this existed sort of perspective, I think you can have a good time. It's all right.
Yeah. We're going to say that in a couple of instances here where we're going to go like, why would you get the 8-bit version of this experience when you get a 16-bit version of this elsewhere, right? Why would you do that? And this is not the same game they had on the Genesis, but if it's still kind of all the same. It's all just Shinobi.
Sure.
Slice, job. Don't die.
Yeah, don't die. If you can help it, try not to die. That's the rule of the game. Right. Now, if you're sitting there going, man, I was a Nintendo guy and I had all the Castlevania I could eat. It's all I wanted to play. Well, good news, because there was Master of Darkness. Master of Darkness, Brian.
Yes, and Brian shoved this one in here, whether Scott wanted it or not. I shoved this in last second, so if he wants to call me out for putting this piece of crap in here,
no, it's fine. I actually kind of like this game. I played it as well. Well, actually, I saw it in the notes and last minute played it because I didn't know about this one, and I went, oh, wait a minute, what is this? It really is. They're trying to be Castlevania clone.
Yeah.
The only difference is a dude in a suit.
It's so hilarious.
But he's still whipping. You know, it's still like bats are coming at you. He's
okay. So imagine Castlevania, but you're playing as a gentleman, and you're in London, and you're actually playing as Ouija board obsessed psychologist. I forget what his name is. Anyway, he's trying to find. He thinks that Count Dracula is murdering people. In the guise of being Jack the Ripper. Turns out, spoiler, it is Jack the Ripper who is killing the people, but he's doing them as blood offerings so that he can resurrect Dracula.
Oh, okay.
So this story is freaking wild. If you want to play a gentleman with a cane traveling across London during Jack the Ripper time.
Yeah.
And trying to revive Dracula. This is a game for you, man.
Yeah.
It made me laugh. It was
It's
hilarious.
a goofball. The story's goofball as hell. Again, it is. I mean, I say Castlevania clone. It does have its own story. It's its own story.
Yeah.
But it's side scrolling. Go up steps. Use a whip thing. It looks like a cane, but it's really a whip. You know what I mean? Like it's
really
it's Castlevania.
It really is. Now, there are bats in this thing, but they're not nearly as annoying as the bats in Castlevania. Instead, they replaced that job with these dumb dogs that you can't because, okay, so this is, once again, we're the Game Gear. So it's a 4x3 screen, and the sprites are pretty big. And so as soon as you step into a frame, the screen will scroll, and then a dog come running at you, and there's no time to react because he's just literally 2 inches away from you. So you gotta and you hit you every freaking time.
It also looks like you're fighting against a bunch of Batmen.
Yeah, I'm not. There's other gentleman, I believe.
Yeah, there's more than just you. You're not the only gentleman. You are amongst a distinguished group of gentlemen in this game.
Right. But I just couldn't believe this game. I was just flipping through the games on my Mr. FPGA, which is how I played most of these this week. Oh. And I saw that title and I was like, oh, Master of Darkness, what is that? And I clicked on it. And I was like, oh my God, this is freaking hilarious. I love it. And I looked, and sure enough, it was one of those exclusives. So I was like, okay, I'm down then. Sign me up.
Well, here's what you need. You need, in your life, you need a little bit of a stupid fox. It's pretty jaunty and good for the kids. Probably a little less hardcore of a story than Gentleman Killing Vampire deal. But that game would be one I played back in the day and tried again now, and actually was surprised how much I still enjoyed it. It's Tails Adventure, a spinoff from Sonic from 1995. It is before he meets Sonic, so this is before he becomes an indentured slave to the freaking hedgehog.
This is when Tails was just enjoying his life, swishing his tail about, and in no hurry to either, because Tails gets in no hurry in this not Sonic game.
No, it's a slow burn. I mean, it's still a what do you call it? It's a scrolling platformer, but
it's action platformer. I think is actually how it's listed. But I mean, if you're signing up thinking, oh, Tails is going to be running along pretty quickly, and flying behind Sonic, no, he's a slow moving kind of guy. And I actually, once my brain accepted it, seeing these Sonic type backgrounds and worlds, I started really enjoying myself.
Well, this is the problem. It didn't sell well, and I think the reason it didn't is because this didn't feature the blazing fast blast processing bullshit of Sonic.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Why am I going to play that then? It's not like real Sonic game or whatever. It's stupid.
This is a knockoff. This is dumb."
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It just feels like it felt like a really homey, fun kind of game. It reminded me of, it's more like a Mario pacing to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
much more Mario pacing. If you can imagine Mario, except this time, Tails, he likes the gadgets. And we're watching some great footage right now where Tails is in his little Pope Mobile of a drill boat. I don't know what this is, a drill boat? Is that what that is?
That is.
Some
kind of
drill
the underwater
submarine?
levels are actually decent because it's this boat you're using instead of him just swimming.
Yeah.
And, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty great. And he's also gets to drop bombs. It's more of a thinker instead of running, left to right. You gotta solve environmental obstacles and attack the enemy. So
you got these little robots too.
He's got
these little robots you can send off and do work and hide and stuff. It's a cool game. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. You could say, why didn't y'all just put some Sonic in there? Surely there's a Sonic in your list. Not really.
No.
Because all the Sonic games, I think there's only 2 that were exclusive to the Game Gear. And if you were going to play a Sonic game, you might as well just played it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you play this? Just something different, that takes better advantage, I think, of the hardware. You could never really replicate Sonic on this thing anyway. You could try.
Because it's too fast, because once again, like we talked about in the game previous to this, Master of Darkness, the sprites have to be so large that it's really hard. It's already hard enough to see Sonic when you're trying to zoom along.
Yeah.
But if you even lessen that screen even smaller and increase the size of Sonic, it gets really difficult to know when you're about to hit something.
Now, you Marvel fans out there probably asking yourselves, if I was presented with the choice to play as either Cyclops or Wolverine, the answer is, why would I ever play Cyclops? Well, good news. There's a game where you can totally do that, and it sounds like this. It's kind of
and that's
cool
the 90s X-Men song somewhere, right? That's not the intro song, but it's very much of that theme, right?
It's not that. The opening theme was how'd it go? Yeah, that whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, Cyclops sucks in this game, and I don't know why you'd play him. I went and played it and decided to go back and start over with Wolverine, and he's way more fun. So do that.
I thought the same thing at first, too. As a matter of fact, I didn't think that at all, because at first I thought you could just play a Cyclops. I didn't realize the opening screen, and you could get back to it as well.
Yeah.
You can switch between characters. And I was like, oh, you can do that. But if you get your mutant power up, if you hit the start button, I don't know if you figured this out or not. If you hit the start button, you can use his blaster.
Yep.
And so that's what I would do. So it was pretty good for range.
Which it took a while to do, because for most of it, you're just punching. You're just kicking dudes, and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah. Cyclops literally has a high-powered freaking nuke beam built into his eyes. Why aren't we using that? Oh, I have to hit start. Okay.
Yeah, that just hit start, which brings up the mutant power. If you had the mutant power charged up, then you can use it. If not, then you have to wait until you come across some more power-ups. I always kind of... I get it. I'm always mad, though, when they do this with superheroes in video games, especially during this era, where it's like they don't give them the power-ups. They just give them punch abilities. I'm like, I get it. Yeah. I get if you had them using their powers all the time, it might be kind of lame, but
My other complaint is there's too much verticality in the game. I much prefer side-scrollers that focus on the side and not the up and down.
Yeah.
This game has got, like, I don't know how stacked it is with stuff, but you got to go really high, and there's no easy map or anything, so you just don't know where you are 90% of the time. That's my only
You start
complaint.
out in the mansion where Magneto has kidnapped the other X-Men, who you can unlock. You can play if you're a big fan of like Storm, Rogue, Psylocke, which I don't think you could play in many places before. I think Ibit pointed that out to us the other day when I was talking to him. And Nightcrawler and Iceman.
Yeah.
You have to unlock those guys as you go along.
Yeah, you had to, and you can
levels.
play them. I can't remember how it works though. Do you have to start over with them, or could you continue?
No, I think you use it at the level start. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me on that. We played a lot of games this past week, and for some reason I played actually 2 X-Men games.
Did you
and
really?
This one made it to the top.
What was it was another X-Men Game Gear game. What was it?
Yeah, it was an exclusive. It was the X-Men Game Masters Legacy, which is, I would say, in some ways, it's more polished.
Okay.
I don't know if it's more fun, but the oh man, the sprites are fantastic looking. But something about this one just kind of stuck with me, where the other one was kind of like it looks really good, but something about it just kind of lacked a little bit for me.
Yeah, this one was a little more snappy. I agree with that.
Yeah, a little snappier.
Now, one of the big competition points for handheld game systems at the time was who had Tetris, and the answer was Nintendo had Tetris. That's why. And that's responsible for why that system sold so many. By many accounts, is Tetris was a system seller. It was a killer app, and Sega
it was the
didn't have
Candy Crush of its time.
It was.
Everybody had to have it.
Yeah, think of early Candy Crush when everybody still gave a shit about Candy Crush. You're absolutely right. That's a great way to put it. Tetris still to this day one of the greatest video games ever made.
Yeah.
It's in the top 10. It's got to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
Has to
Well,
be.
anyway, these guys said, well, we got a thing. And it's got kind of this intro music that's sort of similar to Tetris, and it's also got backgrounds that look like a city, like a Arabian city, like Tetris, and except now we're dropping gem column things down, and we call it columns. Actually, we're going to call it super columns for this version. And
originally, the original columns launched with the Sega Game Gear as a pack-in. This was super columns. I went with this one because the other columns made it to a whole bunch of more systems. This super columns kind of lived and died here.
Yeah, didn't go anywhere else. Columns is an interesting thing. It's not quite Puyo Puyo. It's not quite, well, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was basically reskinned Puyo Puyo.
Right.
Puyo Puyo, however you say it.
I'm going with what you said.
But columns, oh boy, the person playing here is bad. Well, maybe they're
It must be me.
Maybe they're good, and I'm giving them not enough credit here, because look at this. Now he's clearing everything out. Anyway, it is not as good as Tetris, but it's an okay puzzle game on its own right. I think columns is fine. All right, a big healthy F for fine here.
Yeah, this is how I would do it. If you were looking at getting a Game Gear and picking up a couple of games, this is probably going to come free with it.
Yeah.
Or maybe not super columns, but columns for sure.
Yeah.
You'll get enough joy out of columns, and then you'll say, I could just play this on my phone.
Yeah.
Like, a million times over.
Yeah, there's a bunch of columns
games.
ripoffs on your phone. There
Right.
may even be an official columns on your phone. I'm not actually
Yeah.
sure. But none of them are Tetris. That's the key here.
That's right.
Yeah. And I hate, I say that with no disrespect intended, because I think it's still it's a fun, okay, time killing thing, but it doesn't have the depth. The fact that you can't rotate them.
It's just like the Game Gear thing. It's like against the Game Boy, it pales. But as a standalone thing, it's fine. It's great.
Yep.
It's fantastic. It does its own thing, and that's fine. Super Columns does its own things. It's not Tetris, and it never will be. But that's fine.
No, it was like having the Tetris L shapes. Imagine having a bunch of those, but with the L part lopped off, and they can't rotate. Enjoy that. Enjoy your game.
Yeah. Instead, you can reassemble the stack of colored gems. Things.
And it
columns.
it's a whole different strategy.
If you didn't know, it's called columns.
Yeah.
Not two. Well, I guess it is called plural columns, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I guess it is called columns. Okay, my bad.
Well, because you put
it's
one
not
down.
called rows.
No, it's not called rows.
I want to play a game. I want to play a game called Rose.
Hell yeah, dude! Sega
Dropping
Rose.
Rose down.
I'd be into that. Axl Rose. He would sponsor it. Anyway, that's Super Columns, 1995. Still a cartridge, quite easy to find. I looked them up. They're all over the place because, like you said, they were packed in, and and the Super one was pretty easy to get. So if you're trying to build your Game Gear collection, you'll have no trouble finding that. You might have trouble though finding Arena Maze of Death.
Ooh,
Maze of Death. This was my least favorite of the list. I did not enjoy this game.
Yeah, we're getting down to the very end of the Sega Game Gear. There was not going to be many more things coming to the Sega Game Gear.
When I first saw this one, I got excited because I went, ooh, little 3/4 inch dude, or 3/4 view dude, running around, doing cool shit. Nah, he'd mostly just dodging bullets and going screen to screen, and it gets real old. I didn't like it.
Yeah, he's dodging bullets, and all the bullets are Pong-style bullets, so when he shoots, they're like little round balls, and you're fighting against, I guess, are those supposed to be robots?
I don't know what those are, like Terminators or cyborgs, or who knows what those
I actually ended up playing this longer than I meant to for some reason. And I think it was just because of the exploration aspect, because you have to go room to room, and you have to figure out in that room, you have to find a key so that you can open a door to get to the next area. And that's probably the most compelling part of that. The shooting part was just, I got to do this so they'll stop shooting at me so I can continue to look.
Yeah, because you're just looking. That's really what you're doing.
Right.
You're just
right.
looking.
It's like, move, I'm trying to look.
From a like a gameplay video perspective, like a graphics perspective, I thought this looked really cool, but I thought the gameplay was just kind of damp. Wasn't great.
Yeah, I think like we usually see at the end of a lot of these systems when they get near end of life, every enhancement, every shortcut to making a good game has kind of been met, and they can just kind of reproduce that, and they can make a good looking, good running game. Question is, will they make it fun?
Yeah, and that's the hard part, man.
That's the hard part.
It's all right though.
It's all right. I enjoyed it. Arena Maze Death we put on here for what and worth playing. It's at least worth checking out.
Yeah, I would check it out. I mean, it's basically Running Man the game without the IP. Yeah. You can always tell when these games are trying to be something they can't, and they can't call themselves that, but they definitely play like that.
Oh, and it's set in the far-flung future of 2026.
Oh my Lord! Really? We have this to look forward to, dude? Oh my hell!
Yeah, I looked at my isometric life of exploring warehouses.
How can we even do it?
And trying to, the thing is, I don't know why the robots had to stand in place, and I think that there was roving robots that drove around, but then there were others that just stood in place.
There.
I don't understand why they weren't just turrets or something.
They just stood there. They were basically turrets with legs that wouldn't work.
Yeah. They did. Yeah, the legs were for looks.
Chat's right. Dross in the chat says he's a man and he is running. You're right. He's a running man.
You're right. And he's trying to he's trying to broadcast something at a TV station or something because we're all brainwashed. Blah blah blah. Something about social media. Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever is right. Okay,
whatever.
We got some worth of mentions here. I like the Shining Force series, and they made a game called The Shining Force: A Sword of Hygia. Am I saying that right?
Hygia, something like that. Hygia, something like Hajya. I'm sure somebody Japanese speaking individual.
And the reason we didn't include that is the same reason we didn't include Ristar for the Game Gear, which is a pretty good version of that game, because we're going to do Shining Force and Ristar episodes of their own at some point.
They're going to get the love.
They are, because Ristar in particular, I got to talk about why that game. Still one of my favorite platformers that should have taken off. I don't know what happened. I don't get it.
I don't either. Is it the grabby hands? Is that what's freaking people out?
I like the grabby hands, but I know how you feel about like disembodied grabby hands. I know you're not a fan.
Right.
So
not disembodied. Stretchy's fine. I'm fine with stretchy. That makes sense.
Yeah. Because they connect to the shoulders, but you're saying if they're just floating out there, F that noise.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey Mouse runs on those little rubber legs. I mean, I'm fine with that. But if his rubber legs disappear, I'm like, oh ho.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. And also, we didn't bring up any of the Disney games. I will tell you, my favorite Game Gear game is actually a Disney game, but it's one that will probably be included in a compilation that we'll do in the future, and that is the Castle of Illusion port for the Game Gear is actually very, very good.
They did really good. Disney was really killing it.
Yeah.
At about this time, they
did a lot of good stuff. Right. Yep, and they were putting them on everything. You can get your Disney games just about anywhere.
Yeah, these days, a lot of action platformers, and they just always seem to work well.
I need to play that new. I don't know if you've touched it, but that Disney. It's kind of Disney Stardew Valley, but it's called something.
Oh yeah.
People rave about that. That thing's got like ridiculously high
Yeah.
reviews on Steam and stuff. I probably just need to grab that piece of work and see what's up.
Piece of
Dreamlight
work, do
Valley,
it.
that's it.
There you go. Nailed it.
I just feel like I'm like, do I really want to play some cutesy Disney game? But everyone's like, dude, it's really
Yes.
fun. You got to play. It's really good.
You better get on it, boy. How will you talk about it in 20 years if you don't play it now?
It's on Game Pass, which obviously that'd be great. But it feels like the kind of game I want to play in bed on my Steam Deck, and I don't want to
Agreed.
go through. I still haven't gone through the work it takes to get Game Pass xCloud working on my Steam Deck. I want a native damn way to do it.
Yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean? Just make it native way. Why can't you freaking do that, Microsoft?
If it ain't RetroArch or Steam built in, I don't mess with it.
KT Data in the chat.
More complicated.
I trust Kevin. Kevin, send me a link to the easiest way to make that work, because I think I did it the hard way last time.
Yeah.
And it soured me on it. I would much rather do that, I guess. So send me that, will you? All right. Kevin's the man. Sonic the Hedgehog, we talked about 1 and 2, but also there's Triple Trouble. This is the 1994 thing. It has Knuckles in it. It was a sequel to Sonic Chaos, right? The 93 game?
Yeah, Sonic Chaos, and it had the one and only appearance of Knack the Weasel.
Yeah, because he sucked. Don't keep Knack the Weasel around. He sucks. I like Big the
Knack
Cat.
the
Big the
Weasel,
Cat
and
I
the
like.
Weasel goes Knack.
Yeah, remember Big the Cat? Do you remember him? He was cool. Secondary character.
I totally forgot about. No, jeez, what?
Yeah, Big the
Blow
Cat.
my mind right now.
He may have shown up in the Dreamcast adventure game. That may be where he first showed up. But Big the Cat, he's my man. I like that dude. And then you got Chicago Syndicate, 1995, is basically Eternal Champions mob noir stuff. It's not a good game.
No, it's not a good game. It sucked. And
no, it's okay. It's all
so
right.
We mentioned a bunch of games we think that are worth playing. Here's one that is definitely not, and this is something that it epitomizes everything you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
All the font work, all the text, which are sometimes important in reading, they were all this weird font, and you couldn't read it. Even at the scale that I had it at, it was just difficult. I couldn't imagine trying to play this on the Game Gear, and it didn't play well. Yeah. But if you like Eternal Champions, maybe you'll like Chicago Syndicate, where they follow the story of one of the characters.
One character, the noir-looking character that wore a
the
hat
noir-looking
and a suit
character
and stuff. Yeah, I can't remember his name, but I liked him. I played him when I played Eternal Champions.
I'm sure this is somebody's favorite game, but
we got to do a show about the pretenders to the Street Fighter throne of the 16-bit era. You know, Eternal Champions is on that list.
Yeah.
Fatal Fury and those had big followings, but I don't know. It'd be an interesting discussion. We could talk.
What was it? So you said, okay, yeah. I think that's actually a really good topic. I like that one.
Yeah, I think we should think about that.
Yeah.
All right, that's basically it. Game Gear's awesome. You should go play it. It's highly emulatable, but also, like Brian said, you can get the hardware here and there. You can get the
a lot of these games you can find. I think I want to say the Nintendo Switch has some of these and some of the Sega collections and things. I meant to take a deeper dive and I forgot about it, but I know I know there's a bunch of collections that some of these games show up in.
Yeah, that's the other thing is you can get those. So anyway, look for it and see what you think. Okay, it's time to guess games.
Destroy it.
We guess each other's game by a little bit of audio and a date, maybe a hint or two, and we try to see if we can guess it. So we're going to start this week with me and this little title. This is from 1990, and it was on the Game Gear.
Oh.
And so you're going to have to figure it out.
You stayed on brand.
I did this week, yeah. So here you go.
Okay, Steamboat Willie.
I mean, they all kind of sound the same, these games, but any guesses? Any thoughts?
If that's not Mickey Mouse going on the Steamboat, I don't know what it is.
It might be. Here.
It definitely feels like like I said, it definitely feels like a Disney title.
Okay, I'll give you that until you are correct. So my next hint is that yes, it is a Disney title.
Is it the one you mentioned earlier?
I don't know. What did I say?
Didn't you say Castle of Illusion?
Shit, you got it. Nicely done. Brian got it. It's Castle of Illusion. And that's me playing, and I ended up playing for 2.5 hours. Yeah, because I was just going to play a little to get audio out of it.
Yeah.
Because I'll do that most of the time when I do audio. I'd rather play it and kind of see it while I'm doing it to get it rather than just go to YouTube or something. And I ended up playing this for like 2.5 hours.
That is awesome.
That's a great game. It's real good.
Yeah.
People should play it. All right. Nicely done. Brian, you killed me this week so far. Let's see how I do. Anything you can tell me about the ear clip before I hit play?
Yeah, let me get it. Let me make sure I remember what it was. Arcade.
Arcade? What year?
It was at the arcade in 1984.
Okay.
And it was, I do remember what it was. And it was 1984. It was the arcade.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give it. Let's just go from there, and then we'll see if you. Some of the other hints would be like super givey.
Okay, let's find out. Here we go. Oh, I like this. That actually slaps. I like that.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Oh, well, I know this. Oh, I'm going to be annoyed. I know this.
Yeah, you do.
This isn't, it's not Crazy Climber, right?
No.
Okay.
There's some climbing in it, but yeah. That little tick noise is probably climbing.
Okay. Oh, jeez. Hello? I don't... Hold on. All right, give me another hint. I need another hint.
What if I told you it was a Nintendo thing?
Oh, that's why it's... Oh! This is Popeye.
Oh.
Is
I
it?
could see where you think. I would see where you think that. No.
It's not Popeye? Not
Popeye? It's not Popeye.
Not Popeye? Hold on. So when you say it's a Nintendo thing, a Nintendo like...
Yeah, it's a Nintendo thing. How would you like to play as either...
Crazy Climbers.
No, that's a good guess, but no, not even close.
Not Crazy Climbers. Ice Climbers.
Nope, not even close.
Shit. I give up. What is it?
Well, would you like to play as a Mario or Luigi, maybe? Would you want to...
Oh, this is just straight up Mario Brothers?
Nope, it's the Wrecking Crew, baby.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Versus. Do you remember any of the Versus?
Yeah, I remember those.
The Versus Wrecking Crew, and they had this also on the NES.
Hold on, Versus Wrecking Crew.
I never played at the arcade, but I played on the NES, and I was like, oh man, I gotta play the arcade version of this.
I don't remember this at all. Oh my gosh, what even is this game? This is real?
Yeah, that's real.
Mario and Luigi break down designated walls to demolish buildings. Be warned, however, the buildings are home to monsters. They wander around, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know this was how have I never seen this game?
It is awesome. I didn't play it very much, but I never saw the arcade version. I would have loved to have seen it, because how I got there was I started doing some research into the Versus system that they were using. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, oh, I think I played this on the NES. And I'm like, oh, I did. And I was like, oh, this is pretty dang cool.
Absolutely wild, dude.
One day we'll have to do an episode on that system. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would. The one-up thing I always just assume is like a bunch of boards, but it's not that simple, is it? It was like it's different than that, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to do something kind of weird today. See if I can find it. I'm going to read an email, and we'll do it with this guy's voice. Hold on. I'm going to do this with this new thing. This is from Gabe, who sent this in. And here's what he had to say. Let's see if I can give him... There we go. All right, here we go. Whoops. Okay.
Hey, retrographers. I was wondering if either of you had any experience with games by Pangea Software. When I was a kid, computers would come with games by them pre-downloaded. I sunk so much time into games like Automatic just because it was there, and my best friend and I started playing Power Pete when we were 8 and probably finished when we were 10. The Candyland level song still gets stuck in my head sometimes. My partner said she had a game called Bugdom that holds a special place in her heart, and lo and behold, Bugdom is also by Pangea. It seems like they did games for both Mac and Windows. The other games that were ubiquitous for kids in the 90s were games by Humongous Entertainment, especially Putt Putt and Freddy Fish, but certainly Pajama Sam and the Backyard Sports games as well. It would be super interesting to have an episode on Pangea games and possibly one on kids games in the 90s, but that one is mostly just for me. Cheers, Gabe.
All right, and Gabe. Thanks, Gabe.
I love that reading. God, I feel like I was listening to an audiobook.
I know, it's
that
weird.
was so wild.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. So the stuff he's talking about, I remember all this stuff, but I didn't play any of it.
I played a good bit of Freddy Fish.
Yeah,
believe it or not. Yeah, but I was, my kids were playing Freddy Fish, and I was like, move out. Let me show you how to play this stupid game.
So you showed them what for? You got in there and gave it to them.
Right. Let me show you little youngins how to play this stupid. Ooh, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, no, it's not. Look, I remember the putt things.
Yeah,
very very vaguely. So I couldn't tell you much about them, but anyway.
But yeah, this was all over the place throughout the 90s and probably a little bit into the 2000s, right? So I mean, it definitely fits in. Freddy Fish was huge. I mean, if you can ask anybody of a certain age if they remember Freddy Fish, and they absolutely remember Freddy Fish.
All right. How about this one? This is a text. This was sent to us via 801-471-0462, and it went something like this.
I grew up with the N64, and as I got older, I always thought the graphics were awful in that early 3D era. But now I am starting to think it was how I was displaying them that was part of the problem. I think early 3D games really need to be played with a CRT to look their best, or at least on original hardware to get some of the lower quality video output it was meant for to blur lines, especially on the N64. Otherwise, with something like an emulator, the image tends to be too sharp, which makes how crude and jagged the models are very obvious. But with the blurriness of a KeyRT and old-school video cables, it makes things look much smoother than they actually are. Love the show. Hope you guys are doing well. P.S. You guys should look into EverDrives to use on OG hardware. Got one for my 64 yesterday, and I'm having a blast with it. There is definitely something to playing it on the real hardware rather than an emulator.
All right. So
agreed.
Tell me, do you have an EverDrive? Are you doing?
I do not have an EverDrive. Unfortunately, I went to purchase an EverDrive about 5 seconds after the explosion of not being able to get anything.
Yeah.
And I wanted one. I was looking at one for my Sega Genesis because I was really interested in that. But man, no, it was a super outpriced. I don't know if they've started kind of getting these back in some. I'm trying to look now. I still don't see the one for the game. Is it Game Gear? What is the Game Gear one? Yeah. Get out of here! It's a Game Gear one. Look at that.
Okay.
$134. Yeah, before the madness happened. These things were like more like in the $60-$80 range, which seemed to be more reasonable. But I guess at this point, $119 and up to $150 is just what it cost.
Huh.
So I should just get over it.
Yeah.
I should just get over it and stop remembering the good old days.
Yep.
And just accept my fate.
Yeah, take it. Okay, just take it.
Wait a minute. Now I'm seeing the Mega EverDrive X3 is $42. So maybe some of these other ones are kind of coming down.
Maybe they're getting cheaper. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, Game Boy 60. That's what I would expect to pay. That's what I would be fine with paying.
Quick note here on his point about the N64 and part of the problem being what you were displaying it on. I mean, that's a good point. If you got a crappy old CRT TV,
oh yeah,
and it's not great at, it's not some Trinitron flat screen where you get the best possible image. You're gonna be pretty jaggy and gross on that.
This was something that used to happen a good bit. The developers were able to look at these games at a higher resolution in some instances, and they would intentionally have the lines drawn in a way that they knew that they'd be blurring with the CRT. So that was actually part of the painting process of going, what was the end user going to see? Right. And absolutely, it makes a difference. That's the reason why I have 3 CRTs in my office that I hook up my real hardware to. Yeah. Because it just looks good. Now, you can also emulate that as well. You can emulate those scan lines. And you have some success here and there. Yeah. You can also upgrade with something like a RetroTink 5X. That costs money.
Yep.
You know what's a lot cheaper?
Yep.
Just wait until somebody throws a CRT on the side of the road and pick it up.
Yep, that's right. And if you live in the South, that's every other day. So get down there and get that done.
There you go.
Nicely done. Thank you all for your messages. 801-471-0462. You can either leave voicemails or texts there, or you can send us an email, playretroshow@gmail.com, like Gabe did today. It's now time to, it's time for this. Whoops, why isn't that playing? Oh, we already did the, you know what, I'm dumb. I forgot to do this.
Welcome to the treasure.
That was for our emails, all right? I forgot to do it. What are you
There,
going to do?
so just in your mind, play that.
I'm an idiot. Hey, don't worry, everybody who wishes we were talking about very, very retro, because next week we're going to talk about Defender, 1981's Defender.
Yes, we will not have to defend our position about retro next week, will we?
No, we will no longer have to defend her. No, we're going to, finally, Defender, the scrolling shooter game developed by Williams Electronics in 1980, released in arcades in 1981, and it is considered by many to be one of the great oldies of all time.
And a little bit, unless you have just a lot of buttons. You guys don't probably remember how many buttons were on Defender, but there was more than the one that you would play in your Atari.
Yep.
And we'll probably talk about the Atari port too. I think a lot of people played that Defender on the Atari.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was all right, actually. It was not bad. And I actually think it controlled better because I think there were too many buttons.
Yeah.
In the arcade game that you could much simplify these days, and they are. If you play it emulated, you'll have a better time, in my opinion, than you would then, because they've worked out some of that stuff to be tied to your controllers today. So anyway, that'll be Defender, one of the greatest arcade games of all time. Does it hold up? Well, turn in next week and find out. In the meantime, if you like this show, like Drew Lund, Richard Neller, and Sharon McFalls, they're our latest patrons, then you want to be one of them as well at patreon.com/playretro. Signing up's easy. Learning about how it works is easy. And guess what else is easy? Getting episodes with no commercials ever and getting pre-show content every single week. Right there at patreon.com/playretro. It also helps us afford these silly little gadgets and things that we need to get to make the show. So please keep it coming. We really appreciate it. Your support is wonderful. Brian, I think that's everything. Do you have anything you'd like to add to this discussion about Patreon or this? Or you were going to video something for patrons?
Yeah. I'm still trying to finish my 3D print. I ran into a bump and I was just trying to complete it. And hopefully I will complete that very shortly. I should have a lot more time this weekend. Foolishly, I thought the weekend before Valentine's Day would give me plenty of No, it's the weekend after Valentine's that I should have been shooting for.
Yeah, that's what'll happen to you. But don't worry, we once in a while have a little extra of that stuff on there as well. Another fine reason to join us on Patreon. And I swear we're going to do this and
it's a perfect time because we're going to be heading back with this arcade stuff, and I got my GRS spinner, and that's what we're talking about for video footage.
Wait, can you do? You can't do Control Defender with that, can you? With that device?
I was trying to remember. There's a bunch of different layouts for Defender at the arcade. It had that cool little layout, a control center type setup.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out if I could do that.
I want you to try. That's what I want.
think I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hilarious. Maybe it can. Yeah, it's gonna be hilarious. Me trying
Defender with the wheel. Oh my gosh! All right.
Well, that's even better.
That's amazing. Anyway, tune in next week to see how that went. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Go play something retro, and we'll see you next week.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Yes. Get more at frogpants.com.
Coffee? Tea?
Yeah.